So, why do the wicked, the kind of people in this world that you really don't like, the kind of people that are just not good, the kind of people that you scratch your head and say, God, why do they have it so good and I don't? God, I'm just saying, I'm one of your children, and why does this wicked person over here have it so good? Why does it seem like they have so much money? They always have what they need. They never have to worry about a bill. They've got the vehicles they want, the house they want. It seems like they've got great health. Like they never get cancer. God, what is this? I'm hoping that this is the video for you. This is a topic that we could do a ton of videos on, but we're going to try to hop right into it today. I'm going to be reading from Psalm 37. Get whatever Bible that you have. I'm reading out of the BSB because there is no copyright on the text, and I can read this whole psalm and talk for a minute and be fine. So yes, I'm reading from Psalm 37. And before I start reading, I do want to say blessings come to everyone. It's the saying, the rain falls on the just and the unjust. That's a biblical term from one of the four Gospels. In the parable of the weeds and the wheat that Jesus tells. The weeds obviously are the bad. The wheat is the good. And he says, let both grow together. We're not going to cut one out. They both grow together. So the water that's nourishing the wheat is also nourishing the weeds. And that is the way that the Lord has set it up. So, but then you say, well, yeah, but that doesn't answer my question. If the same rain is falling, how come they're blessed and I'm not? Here's the thing. Their blessing is actually their curse. No one gets away with anything in this life. I heard Jordan Peterson say that one time. He was talking about his clinical practice when he was a psychologist, and I guess out of people he had counseled and think maybe he had read works of other psychologists and listened to others, and he said out of all his work, I guess he had counseled some humdingers, maybe, I don't know. And he said that no one gets away with anything. Even people that look like they're getting away with it, it haunts them because they know what they did. And it never leaves. They can try to drink it out of their mind all they want, but they know what they did. And so, I believe Proverbs even says that the Lord has created the wicked even for the day of wrath. That's some deep stuff. We're going to hop right into it here. Psalm 37. Do not fret over those who do evil. Do not envy those who do wrong. For they wither quickly like grass, and wilt like tender plants. Trust in the Lord and do good. Dwell in the land and cultivate faithfulness. Cultivate faithfulness. Listen to that. Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust in Him, and He will do it. He will bring forth your righteousness like the dawn, your justice like the noonday sun. Be still before the Lord, and wait patiently for Him. Do not fret when men prosper in their ways, when they carry out wicked schemes. People that carry out these assassinations and they think they're getting away with it. When they carry out their wicked schemes. Refrain from anger and abandon wrath. Do not fret. It can only bring harm, David says. Refrain from anger and abandon wrath. That's something I got to work on. That I don't like that verse. I wanted to do the opposite. But I say yes, Lord. For the evil doers, see, this is what David was getting at here. For the evil doers will be cut off, but those who hope in the Lord will inherit the land. Kind of like what Jesus says about the meek inheriting the earth. Yet a little while, and the wicked will be no more. Though you look for them, they will not be found. But the meek will inherit the land and delight in abundant prosperity. The wicked scheme against the righteous and gnash their teeth at them. Gnash. It's a biblical term of just gritting your teeth because oh my gosh, you can't stand it. And it just makes you, ugh. The wicked scheme against the righteous. They scheme against you. They plan against you. They grind their teeth at you. They just can't stand you. Yeah, I know. And you're like, well, why? What's so bad about, yeah, we're all sinners, but, I'm trying to follow the Lord here. Why do you have a problem with that? Verse 13, but the Lord laughs, seeing that their day is coming. He knows the end from the beginning. He can see what we can't see. The wicked have drawn the sword and bent the bow to bring down the poor and needy, to slay those whose ways are upright. But their swords will pierce their own hearts, and their bows will be broken. Better is the little of the righteous than the abundance of many who are wicked. Wow. For the arms of the wicked will be broken, but the Lord upholds the righteous. The Lord knows the days of the blameless, and their inheritance will last forever. Kind of rings a bell with Jesus saying, lay up your treasure in heaven, doesn't it? The Lord knows the ways of the blameless, and their inheritance will last forever. In the time of evil they will not be ashamed, and in the days of famine they will be satisfied. Now listen to this. But the wicked and enemies of the Lord will perish like the glory of the fields. They will vanish like smoke. They will fade away. Listen, the wicked borrow and do not repay, but the righteous are gracious in giving. Surely those he blesses will inherit the land, but the cursed will be destroyed. The steps of a man are ordered by the Lord, who takes delight in his journey. Though he falls, he will not be overwhelmed, for the Lord is holding his hand. I once was young, and now am old. Yet never have I seen the righteous abandoned, or their children begging for bread. They are ever generous and quick to lend, and their children are a blessing. Turn away from evil and do good, so that you will abide forever. For the Lord loves justice and will not forsake his saints. They are preserved forever, but the offering of the wicked will be cut off. The righteous will inherit the land and dwell in it forever. The mouth of the righteous man utters wisdom, and his tongue speaks justice. The law of his God is in his heart. Wow. I got to read that again. The righteous. Well, let's back up a little bit. Verse 28. For the Lord loves justice and will not forsake his saints. They are preserved forever, but the offspring of the wicked will be cut off. Sometimes by their own decision making. The righteous will inherit the land and dwell in it forever. The mouth of the righteous man utters wisdom, and his tongue speaks justice. The law of his God is in his heart. His steps do not falter. Though the wicked lie in wait for the righteous and seek to slay them, the Lord will not leave them in their power, or let them be condemned under judgment. Wait for the Lord and keep his way, and he will raise you up to inherit the land. When the wicked are cut off, you will see it. I have seen a wicked, ruthless man flourishing like a well-rooted native tree. This is David speaking. Yet he passed away and was no more. Though I searched, he could not be found. That's deep. I have seen a wicked, ruthless man flourishing like a well-rooted native tree. Yet he passed away and was no more. Though I searched, he could not be found. Maybe because he was not rooted like the right tree. Consider the blameless and observe the upright. For posterity awaits the man of peace, but the transgressors will all be destroyed. The future of the wicked will be cut off. The salvation of the righteous is from the Lord. He is their stronghold in time of trouble. The Lord delivers them. He rescues and saves them from the wicked, because they take refuge in him. I know that was a lot of reading, but there was so much wisdom in that. So much wisdom. You know, if you look back in Genesis, there's so much wisdom in a part of the story there. Abraham is traveling through the land. He's left Egypt. I want to say it's when he had lied about Sarah being his sister, not his wife. And he's coming back through there. And he tells Abraham that the sins of the Amorites were not yet full. Now, Abraham's traveling through the land. Now, he's got a lot. The Lord's blessing him. But he probably doesn't have what the Amorites do. Yeah, they're practically their own, little country or region or whatever. And I'm sure they probably had massive flocks, camels, the whole 9 yards, And it's probably seemed like they were blessed, but they were sinful, they were evil, they were wicked. Their time was not yet, though. 300 to 400 years later, children of Israel are coming out of Egypt. The children of Abraham was coming out of Egypt and come through the land there. And in a massive battle, the Israelites beat the Amorites. And if I'm not mistaken, they are wiped clean from the face of the earth. They may have had their days of, plenty, their days of wickedness. And, we're talking about some evil groups of people back then. They had done massive amounts of evil. And it probably seemed to people that, were their, the unlucky ones that had the crimes committed against them. Probably seemed to them like there was no hope. But yet one day, God's justice came to them in the form of a sword, swung by this tribe that had just been liberated out of slavery. Well, not tribe, this group of people, the people of Israel. And by their sword, the Amorites felt the justice of God. Like David said, better a little bit of the righteous than the riches of the wicked people. There's always someone who's more wicked. Someone who, it seems like so many of the wicked people just have it all together, but when you live your life against God, when you live your life as a sinner, you're living in God's world. You're, drinking God's water, you're eating God's food. You are being blessed by the creation of Almighty God, even though you don't acknowledge Him, and He still blesses you. The thing of it is that their sins are not forgotten, and their way does come to an end. Their way of living, their riches. Look how many wicked people had probably cheated so many poor people, and they built up such wealth and lied to people. But you know something, just like it says, think about how quick the kids of some of these families, when they're given an inheritance, how fast they burn through it. And, before long, their inheritance is gone. These days, if a family's been sinful enough, who knows? Maybe their children change genders and they don't have, that they no longer are able to have children. I don't know. Things have a funny way of working out. Think about all the times that good, innocent people were cheated. And then yet 100, 200 years later, the cheater's lineage was gone. But you say, well, Nathan, this still doesn't quite answer my question. Why do I struggle so hard? Why am I in such a bad way? Why does it just feel like I never can fully grasp the blessing of God? And it feels like it's one thing after another. And He never told us that we weren't going to have trials. We've seen what happens. People will go and make that deal with the devil, and they are given untold wealth, untold riches. But they made a deal with the devil. Everybody at some point in their life has that wilderness moment experience where the devil has you up on a high mountain and you've been fasting for 40 days. You're tired. You're hungry. You're probably physically not doing very well. And the devil shows up. He always comes when you're at your weakest. And he tempts you. And he says just what he said to Jesus. See everything? All this has been given to me. If you fall down and worship me, you got it. It says the kingdoms of the world and in their glory. And he showed Jesus all that. Which Jesus is like, yeah. Like, I'm the Son of God, You're not giving me nothing that I don't already have. We are the ones who, we appointed you where you are. We created you guys as well. Because the devil is a fallen angel. He's the chief of fallen angels. And Jesus is probably sitting there thinking like, yeah, wasn't very long ago that we created you guys and gave you guys a choice of following us. Evil will be punished. I was listening to man who was an exorcist or an exorcist assistant for Catholic priests, and he was talking about, basically how, like, the origin of, like, the fallen angels. Was it Nephilim? Like, what is the origin of demons and all that? And he was talking about how that the consensus throughout Christian history was that they were created on day 2. and that basically they were created with each with a talent and ability, like what they would be good at. And they were given a choice to serve God and to be an angel, to be angelically pure, or to follow after Lucifer, to follow after the devil, to be his henchman. Excuse me. But they were given a choice, and because they were created in their perfect manner, in their perfect way, the choice that they made was permanent because they were created perfectly, and with their heavenly powers that were instilled in them as angels, they knew full well what they were doing. Because they were freshly made and they were created perfectly, when they chose evil, they knew it fully, and that's why they're so good at what they do. The devil took a third of the angels, supposedly. Incidentally, it's 33, a big Masonic number. What does that tell you? But he took a third of the angels, and they were in their perfect state, and they perfectly chose evil. They knew what they were signing up for. And basically, whatever means and ability that they had, now the devil has them on his side, and whatever they're good at is now they twist and corrupt it, basically. And it seems as though the wicked just never get punished. The reason I bring up the fallen angels, their day is coming. It was written in stone a long time ago. Their fate was already decided. They chose it perfectly. But they will have an eternity in eternal punishment. Jesus says it in Matthew 25. To depart from me and go into, I believe he says the fire reserved for the devil and his angels, I think. I'm not going to turn there. This is where we're running out of time. But wicked has a collision course going on with their fate, with their destiny. And I mean, when I say they, I mean anyone who is just truly wicked. Like, they are practically just sold out. They know what they're doing. They serve the devil now, and they are carrying out wickedness. Their day is coming. You have to accept the plan of God. We have to trust the process. We have to take him at his word, and we have to trust him, because he knows what we don't. Maybe certain blessings, if you were given them, would actually lead to your downfall. Maybe it's a protection that you have less blessings than those that are just fully evil. But rest assured, it might look like they're getting away with it, and it might look like nothing's happening. But by their own actions, they plant the seeds of their own destruction. I think Paul, he talks in Romans 2 about something like that. Proverbs says, he's created the wicked for the day of wrath, or something like that. This is deep stuff, and we don't have time to fully finish this, but trust in the Lord, and he will direct our paths, like it said. Those that are evil, they will pass away. There's a reason why our culture is changing so drastically, and why it just seems like we're losing so much ground. And it's because we are not walking in the way that our fathers walked. If everyone in America would super duper get close to God and it be authentic, yes, this country would change. But we know that the wicked will not do that. Because by their own actions, they will be justified. How did Jesus say that? By their own words or by their own actions? I think it was actions, maybe. Maybe it was words. By their own words, they will be justified, and by their own words, they will be condemned. Something like that. But take courage. Be thankful that you are righteous. Be thankful that you're on the side of right. Be thankful that God has you in His family. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart. Lean not into your own understanding, and He will direct your paths. As for me and my house, we serve the Lord. Choose this day whom you will serve. God bless you.